You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. White domestic terrorism is the biggest issue facing this country, according to the FBI, when it comes to the issue of terrorism. Yesterday, President Joe Biden's domestic policy advisor, Susan Rice, talked about the issue of domestic terrorism when Biden revealed a number of executive orders, those dealing with racial equity. Watch this.
We have seen, and it's been plain for all Americans on their television sets, just how serious a problem we face from nationalists and white supremacists who have demonstrated willingness to resort to violence in some instances. And that is why the president has ordered the intelligence community to compile a comprehensive assessment of the nature of this threat and challenge and its origins and roots, and thus provide policymakers with inputs that will be very important to address this challenge. The National Security Council has set up a capacity within the NSC to focus on domestic violent extremism and to ensure that we are within the White House and within the interagency coordinating efforts to craft and implement policies that will address this. So we're taking it quite seriously.
Let's go to our panel. A. Scott Bolden, former chair of National Bar Association Political Action Committee. Robert Portillo, Executive Director, Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project. And we'll be joined by Monique Presley, Crisis Manager and Legal Analyst. Robert, I'll start with you. This issue, domestic terrorism, let's call it what it is, white domestic terrorism. That is the fundamental issue of terror facing America. White domestic terrorist.
You're absolutely correct. And we can go back to Sandy Hook. All these years we've been calling them school shootings. Those are white domestic terrorist attacks. If you want to look at Oklahoma City, if you want to look at Ruby Ridge, if you want to go back to the Branch Davidians, this has been growing and metastasizing long before President Trump was in office and will continue long after him. But the difference is now we can actually address them in an honest and cohesive manner. We have seen the power of these online chat groups of QAnon and 4chan and motivating many of these white supremacists. We have seen that they are well armed. They have tactics, they have bug out bags and kits and all those other things. So they are ready for war in this country. They're ready to tear this country apart. And we do not attack them the same way we went after the Islamic State, the same way we went after Al Qaeda. Then they will be working to destroy this country from the inside out for generations to come. So I think the domestic policy priorities of the Biden administration have to be predicated on bringing down many of these terrorist networks and bringing down the politicians who have infiltrated our political system that are supporting them and that are their gravamon, that are their leaders in the Congress and the Senate and even in the White House. And that's why we have to have a full investigation, a 9/11 style commission to root these people out, to prosecute them, to arrest them, and to jail them.
Scott, again, the charge to prosecutors should be focused largely on getting the job done, putting these people away. And again, the reason we are saying white domestic terrorism is because we got to call it what it is. America never wants to call out white folks. Never. Now, the FBI under Trump tried to call black identity extremists or whatever the hell they want to call it. No, we're going to call it what it is. White terrorists. White domestic terrorists.
Well, the first thing you have to do to fight white domestic terrorism is to rid yourself of this white privilege and this second big lie. What is that second big lie, Roland? You could say it with me, that black people are killing police officers and therefore they are a threat, like Black Lives Matter is a threat to the police. But what do the Pew Trust reports say? What do DOJ statistics say themselves? Who's killing white police officers around this country on an annual basis, right? White hate groups, white conservatives, white Republicans who are activists on the far right, who are those white domestic terrorists. Who'd they kill up on the Capitol last week or 2 weeks ago? Those were white insurrectionists, conservatives, far-right, domestic terrorists who killed that police officer. So we got to blow it out your mind that this white privilege says black people are a danger to police officers and they're shooting and killing black people because they feel threatened for their lives. They ought to be afraid of white conservative terrorists more so than Black Lives Matter. And so it's about time, take a fair look at it, right? Because free speech, which is what they'll cloak themselves in, has never been free speech, or violent speech has never been free speech for Black people. And so hopefully we'll get to the bottom of it with the DOJ cooperating with the Biden administration.
Monique.
Well, the big lie is not really what happened this past January. The big lie is that the Black people, and I'll expand it and say people of color in the United States, are the ones that we need to be afraid of, the ones that we should be terrorized by, when it's been clear decade after decade after decade that there is a real problem in this country with young white males and the level of anger and hatred that they carry, and the way that it is used in order to just commit crimes, heinous crimes against citizens of our country. And the things that happened last week in the Capitol, the things that happened in Oklahoma, the things that happened in Florida, the things that happened at Sandy Hook, that's not Black folks. And it's never been Black folks. And we've had the right to be as angry as anybody. We've had the right to be as hateful as anybody. But we've never turned that inward on our own government and thought that the way of solving our problems was by committing sedition against our own government. We've always fought to fix the system and to be recognized for who we are as human beings. And this is something completely different.
And Roland,
Go ahead.
Roland, I think it's also important to remember that what happens when you don't address these issues at the time. We saw what happened in Michigan, where they stormed the Michigan Capitol and tried to kidnap the governor there. We did nothing to those people. Many of those people went home scot-free. We saw them nearly storm the Capitol in Kentucky, hung an effigy of the governor there and burned it outside of the Capitol. We did nothing at that point. There was a plot to kidnap the governor of Virginia, and we never rooted that out. So then when January the 6th happens, it's not as if that was a surprise. They did 3 or 4 dry runs of raiding capitals around the country, and then they took it to the national level. So if we don't address it now, then what's the next step after this? Do they really break in next time? Do they really get to kidnap the vice president? Do they really kidnap the Speaker of the House? Do we see ourselves go from an actual republic into a military police state trying to put down domestic terrorist insurrections year after year? So it's very important and crucial not to make this a campaign or an election issue, not to make it a partisan issue, but everybody should be on board with this effort to break down these terrorist networks.
That is the case, and again, but you got to call it what it is. And too often, major media doesn't want to do that. White folks don't want to do that. And I can guarantee you, if there were a bunch of Muslims or Black people walking around, they would be calling them Muslim terrorists, Black terrorists. That's what they would be doing, and we all know it. We all know it. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.